Okay, you're ready to go.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, I would like to call this meeting to order. It's 6:31. Do we have any public comment?
I haven't seen any, and there's nobody watching on YouTube yet.
Okay. Moving on, can I get someone to review our operating norms?
Sure, I'll begin. As a board, we will focus on student outcomes, excuse me, be open-minded, respect each other, value different viewpoints, be responsive and responsible to our community, make decisions based on data and facts, and listen to each other, be reflective, run meetings that respect time, have concise agendas, are transparent, and follow Robert's rules.
Thank you, Michael.
Touche.
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a
Diane.
motion.
Thank you, Diane.
I'll second.
Thank you, Scott. Any discussion? Okay. Corey,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Diane,
Yep.
Scott?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. The agenda is passed. Randy, we'll turn it over to you.
Okay, so I will turn it over for our first report from me over to Brooke and Jana. So Jana Webb is joining us. Brooke, I think, is going to get us started. And hi, Jana. Thanks for coming. And Jana will do a presentation and then open it up for any questions if you should have some. Okay. You know what? But Brooke, you want to share your screen, right? So Celeste is the host. Celeste, can you make Brooke the co-host just for her presentation?
Absolutely.
Thank you. All right, I'm turning it over to you.
All set.
All right, I think I'm set now. I had so many tabs and windows open, I had to find the right one. So, all right, so we're just going to begin by talking a little bit about our partnership with Merck Forest and how they've supported all of our teachers and students so far this year. And some of the things that they've done, Chris Hubbard is one of the education leaders, and she's been working with our teachers and using the curriculum project learning tree. And we were given all the materials in the month of January, and we led an in-service together, which really focused on tracking. And the teachers were able to get a personal lesson with lots of details that she created through a slideshow, and they were able to present that with their students. She's also hoping to, we're kind of creating the agenda for February, talking about nature journaling. And then they have in the past this year led some hikes with the teachers. There's people on staff that have created presentations about owls and birds that will be shared with us for the month of February and March. And then our hope is to talk about maybe creating trails in the future. And right now they're willing to help support students and teachers in different ways with outdoor learning experiences. And I kind of mentioned that she'll be working with us. Chris Hubbard will be working with us for January, February, and March. And there is a lot of details going into those trainings. They now have access to several lessons within the book that they can do on their own. And they're providing us additional information and things about the topics. So example, next month, we're going to be doing this activity that requires a lot of prep work, and she'll be doing that and bringing the materials to school ahead of time. And we're really looking forward to their continued partnership in the next few months. One of the lessons we talked about was tracking, and I want to highlight a few of the teachers and what they've done. So Mr. Rampone has been focusing on winter stories that are hung up in our hallways. They were studying tracking and the snow, and he had created lessons about using the leveled books about snow and tracking, and they've also participated in a lot of science activities. And as you'll see in these pictures, he documented one of the tracks they found, and the students then actually were creating out of clay different molds of the tracks that they found. And here's a picture that captured, or like they all got to see this one particular track that they were really excited about. Miss Pierce,
Do you know what kind of track that is?
What was that, Michael?
I wondered if anybody knew what kind of track that was.
Oh, I didn't ask. I just took the pictures, but I'm sure he leads them in a long conversation about that. He loves being outdoors with his students. Miss Pierce's class, you wanted to kind of see the different things that they're discovering out there. You could see that they were all pointing to the different tracks. She used a ruler to measure how like the length of the track was. And they're just high levels of kids, and they love being outdoors. And then our fourth graders went out with Mrs. Fisher to do some sledding. And you could just see that by the looks in their faces that they were just happy to be outside to enjoy that. So just having the opportunities to have the sled, the hill, and the land. For some kids, they've never experienced sledding until coming into this winter with our school. I'm now going to turn it over to Jana to say a few things about her PE classes.
All right. Thank you. And thank you for having me here tonight. I'm happy to be with you guys. I just want to share, we have used the Merck land so much this year in light of COVID, just trying to be outside as much as possible. And it's only been a handful of times that we've been inside. So even on the snowy days, the kind of cold days, the rainy days when we had the tent, we've been outside. So these were some fall lessons where we had hiked up to the upper meadow. And as you can see, some of them, it was structured with some sort of structured activity, the ones with the cones, but it also is a huge area that the kids can run and explore. And it almost felt like a little bit like a field trip, but we were close to the school, but far enough away that it just kind of felt like a different place. Okay, next one. These are a couple of pictures of collaborating with Mr. Harmon's class on a hike. I love Mr. Harmon is very prepared with their vests and their journals, their nature journals. He will often meet us after PE class. He'll meet his class outside and they'll continue on a hike and do some nature journaling. I have shared some pictures with a few of the teachers that are very active and engaged with their outdoor lessons with their students, and they're sharing them with their students. So I feel like we've done a lot more collaboration with some of these outside activities on the Merck property. One of the students' favorite things we've been doing is building forts. So we, last winter, Merck did an outdoor project with some students that didn't do skiing for JISP. And so they built a fort. And so when I brought my students up in the woods, they thought it was awesome and wanted to build their own. So we explored this area and I let the students find a spot they thought would be a good spot. And every class, kindergarten through 6th grade, has built or at least started their fort. Some of them are further along than others. And they're still even now wanting to go check on their forts. It's really neat because we've used, all natural resources. If you want to go to the next slide, Brooke, I want to show the picture of, I think one of them down in the bottom, the second picture in on the, from the left. Yeah, that one. It's kindergarten students all working together to lift up this big branch to hold up. The teamwork, they are so proud of their work. And it's just, some kids don't have woods to explore, an area to build. And so it's really been a blessing for us to be able to be up there and explore and build together. And sledding. We have had so much fun sledding this winter. Sometimes we're close to the school. When I first started, I was not sure. We didn't have sleds in the past, so I didn't do it in PE, but we've done with my older kids, they're showing off their snowboarding skills. They're doing some balancing on the way down. I was telling Brooke earlier, one of my favorite stories about sledding was we had a student return from remote learning, and we were going up on the back hill to go sledding, and we're about halfway up the hill, and he says, Mrs. Webb, I'm so tired. Are we going to do this every day? And I said, we come up here a lot. We come up on the land. And by the time we got up to the top and he slid down his first time, he was up and down, up and down, up and down, didn't even act tired. It was like he kind of forgot he was being active. And by the end of PE, he said, can we do this next PE? So it was really an awesome experience, because I think at first he was dreading it because it was tiring, but the kids have really built up their stamina. We hike up there often, and so it's really been a fun experience. And for some of these kids, their first experience with even downhill sledding on kind of a big hill. We have found some cool things outside. A few different tracks there. We believe some things we've seen for tracks. We've seen deer, bird, coyote. We thought we saw a bobcat track. We had measured it, and I had asked Mr. Harmon and Mr. Rampone. But then we found this deer carcass, which is what like those 3 pictures were. And coyotes had gotten it. And at first I was like, oh my goodness, like, oh, what do I like? Should I even let kids see this? It was at the bottom of our sledding hill, but not really where we sled. They were so interested in seeing this and curious about what happened and where the coyote sat and waited, and how many there were and how they tracked the deer down, and then just looking at the skeleton of the deer. And so it was really an interesting find that I really didn't think I would ever see in PE, but brought in a little bit of a science lesson and some engagement with some other classroom teachers. And so those are a few of our cool finds from outside. And this is my last slide. I am so thankful and appreciative to have the opportunity to have this Merkland. It's beautiful. Like, I love being out there with the kids, but just the scenery, the mountains, the sun, the hills, the kids just being active outside. And so I appreciate having the opportunity to use the land, and it will definitely change the way I run my PE classes from now on. We'll definitely utilize that land much more. So I'm grateful for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Jana, for sharing all of the great things that you're doing with our students during PE and being able to utilize the outdoors in that land. And it's just the beginning of what we can be doing together as we're exploring that land. Right now, there are some things that we're hoping to do. We're brainstorming, Chris and I, just about how our kids can be scientists of the land and really collecting information about what plants and insects and animals that are there, and having them become data collectors. And that will be something that we're hoping to do this spring. We would love to have an all-school Merck Forest Exploration Day. We did do that not this past spring, but the spring prior, and it was a huge success. So looking forward in the future of doing something like that, where the staff come, our teachers design stations, and the kids are able to move through that. And there's just so much potential that the outdoor education potential that we have using the diverse land. We are very grateful for their partnership and their willingness to help support any teacher and being able to be creative. And I'm really thinking about some things that we could do with our current 6th graders before they leave us. So that is kind of our presentation for today. Any questions?
Thank you.
Yeah.
One other thing I want to tell you is based on Bob Niles helping with creating a story about our partnership that was then put in a few local papers. I want to let you know 2 different families and 2 different points reached out to our school asking about our partnership with Merck and wanting to know if it will continue because they would like to send our kids, their home study kids currently, but would like to send them maybe possibly next year. And they were really intrigued with the outdoor education.
That's great.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Great. Thanks for sharing all that. Jana, that was
Yeah.
fun hearing it.
Thank you. It's really nice to see you all. I feel like I haven't seen so many faces in a while.
Does anybody have any questions or comments for Jana or Brooke?
I don't think I have any questions, but that was just great. I really appreciate the tying it into the Merck land. What a gift, especially now,
Yeah.
but just in general, what a gift to have. I don't know what else.
I agree. It's a great use of a resource that is very, very local and really has a lot to offer over there. And Chris Hubbard is just a terrific person. So
We're really hoping to maybe even create signage because now Jana and the kids have now kind of labeled like the lower meadow or the bigger hill. Like we want to take some ownership and she's looking forward to working with us to title the different areas that we have out there.
nice.
Sil could take the preschoolers up to the 100-acre woods and reenact Pooh Bear.
That's great. Thank you, Jana, so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. All right, we ready to move on, Julie?
I'm ready.
Okay, so so this afternoon, did everybody receive an email from Celeste with a draft of a informational hearing presentation? Okay.
Yes.
So we wanted to begin to work on the presentation to do when you have your informational hearing in a couple of weeks. So we're like 2 weeks out at this point. So I wanted to be able to, Julie, when we did this with TNG, we kind of went through the entire thing slide by slide, just getting comments from board members.
Yep.
Really looking at sort of the structure of the organizational meeting and using this to frame the beginning part of it. Obviously, the district report has a ton of detail, right? It's got a lot of information, but we want to highlight the most important things during the presentation. So if we want to just work through it that way, I think that probably makes the most sense. We can talk about what we've got in here, and then at the end, if you feel like there's something important that we did not include that we should, we can talk about that once we're through it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you look at the second slide, which is educational impact of the budget, does anybody have any comments or questions or concerns about that slide?
No, I think the whole format of the thing, just in general, to my relief, seems very clear and sort of like an FAQ sheet. Because I was thinking that if we're having this Zoom meeting, it might be that other people are connecting with individual board members with questions. So this was immediately helpful for me to look through.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I agree. It was very plain language, very spelled out. I thought it was really, really helpful.
Okay, we wanted to try to make it as accessible as we could to as many people as possible, and also highlight the relevant information that you would want your taxpayers to have. Mm-hmm. Okay, so if we go to the next one, that's what starts, oh, I guess on this one, we only have one sheet of key points. So key points, Anything in there you want to draw attention to? Okay.
I guess my only question was that I guess that the decrease is reflecting the amount of time that students are spending at home as well as at school. Is that correct? I wasn't exactly sure why that would be happening in that way.
Yeah, so you've got, you have 2 unfilled positions this year that were budgeted for FY21, but they weren't filled. Okay. And so those positions will continue to remain unfilled, but now they're carrying over to FY22. And then there's 3 additional positions. One of those is a teacher. And we looked at using attrition like we've been talking about, and given your class size and even anticipated class sizes, felt like we could make another reduction and still be able to adequately staff the school. And then we're also reducing 2 additional para positions because the students requiring those services are not at the school anymore. So you kind of have this 2-year aggregate of staffing positions all hitting the FY22 budget. Right, Sue, I captured that accurately.
Yep,
Okay.
exactly.
To be clear, they're not there anymore because they have graduated or moved, not that they're just not in the school.
Yeah, the students are not going to be in the school next year or are currently not in the school that
Right.
had level of staffing. Yep. And we'll draw attention to that when we talk about it, Michael, because I think it's important. That's a very natural question. I actually have my Post-it with the answer to that question. So you just gave me a great lead. I was right that somebody would ask. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. And then we have the slide on budget changes. And this is where we start talking about the numbers and the monetary value associated with changes in the budget. Yeah, fine. And then on this, the next budget changes slide, this is something that you will see happening in your district report as well. We adjusted our presentation a little bit. Bob and Sue and I spent a lot of time working on the district reports, and one of the things that we changed is this idea of, you can see under this slide that we have the language decreases education spending, increases education spending. We wanted to make it really clear to people, because sometimes when you just have the parentheses or you just have the numbers, I anyway found it, sometimes I wasn't really entirely sure what it meant or what was happening. So you'll see throughout the report some changes that are intended to make the information more accessible to more people and provide greater clarity. Okay.
Mhm.
So then we've got the tax rate components. So this is also something that we are trying to help people understand. We know that there are still a lot of people who equate the district budget with your tax rate, almost as if those are there's a line connecting those 2 items, when that's not the case at all. And so we're trying to spend some time helping people to understand what goes into the tax rate. So on this, you've got all of the variables, and then you've also got a chart. And I hope that this is useful. This is, again, something new that we are including to help people see a comparison from this year's budget to next year's proposed budget, what's happening, whether numbers are increasing or decreasing, and then what that impact to the tax rate may be.
So on this one, the only thing that I found slightly confusing is like the Act 46 incentive with being a 2-cent increase. I mean, it's a 2-cent decrease on our tax rate, but it's a 2-cent increase just from last year, because last year was a 4-cent. I feel like that's going to be a little confusing.
The loss of the decrease
Yeah,
double negative almost.
Yeah, it's a tough one to explain, and I think that if it comes up, we're just going to have to answer that question. There, I mean, you're going from 4 cents to 2 cents. So,
Right.
so it's an increase in your tax rate, and it is tough to, it's a decrease and then an increase, so it's tough to explain.
okay.
If
Yeah, I
anybody has a
think it's
suggestion on
related.
how to make it clearer, please.
Yeah, I was,
Jump in.
that's what I was like, how do we make this clear? I think we just have to say it. I guess I agree with that because I couldn't come up with anything that made.
Yeah, it's just confusing because the other decreases are decreasing the budget. So that one makes the budget go up. So maybe just a little asterisk next to it that explains that particular line.
So Sue, in all the annals of accounting lore and all those fascinating and interesting math stories, there's no good analogy we can find to explain the decrease, increase, decrease.
Not one that I would wish to tackle. No, I think that if any accounting jargon that goes in there is going to be harder to understand.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I think we'll just talk, we'll just say it. We'll just talk about it when we get to
Yeah.
that part of the presentation. We'll just have to remember. I mean, I don't know that we need more language, but if you want to put an asterisk, just so whoever's working on that part of the presentation has a bell to remind them, that's all. I'll try my very best to just remember it.
And people may ask too, which is fine, right? We want people to ask questions, so they may jump back and ask that question as well. I do want to draw your attention to the yield, just because it's right here on this page and I don't want to forget. So I'm going to take a kind of pause for a second. So the property yield is likely going to increase from where it was in the December 1st letter, which is a good thing for both the residents of Pollitt and the residents of Rupert. So when the property yield originally was going to be lower than it was this year, so it was this year's yield is 10,998, and it was going to be lower, which was going to increase your taxes. Now, because of increases in revenue that were unanticipated, the House Ways and Means Committee they've approved a higher yield at $11,385. So because the yield is higher, that has a decreasing effect on your taxes. So once we got that information, we decided to go back and apply it to all of the numbers. So we went back to your district report and updated all the numbers with the new yield so that you would have more accurate tax rates that we're expecting based on the current information. Okay, so that's different. The yield is different, so the tax rate, projected tax rate, is going to be different than what we talked about when we passed the budget. Okay, so I just want to make sure that you're aware of that change and that I draw your attention to it. And then this next slide, the projected equalized homestead tax rate, this is the slide you wanted, Julie, right?
Yes.
Okay. So we added this because we know a lot of people do like this page that you see, and we have it when we're presenting a budget to you, and it's also in the district report. So it compares, FY21 and FY22, and a number of variables that get you to where the tax rate, the equalized homestead tax rate would be for Mettawee. And then we follow that with the actual tax rates, because we know that this is ultimately, it's like the buildup, right? This is the part that people are interested in. And you can see in your chart, we were able to have that final row say decrease the tax rate because both Pollitt and Rupert are seeing decreases. Pollitt of 6 cents and Rupert of 12.4 cents. So your communities are in pretty good shape that way.
I do have a question back on the table
Sure.
where it's showing the changes to budget. If you add them up, you're getting like increase of 4.8 cents. Does that, 'correspond to anything in the budget? Is there a line? Does that make sense?
What are you adding up?
Yeah, which numbers? And which slide, Corey?
Can't hear-
You're muted.
Can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. I was trying to unmute it with, I have a different window open because it's on a different window. Let me just check it. Hold on one second. So it's the table, the tax rate components. So on the far right, it's increase or decrease to the tax rate projection. Do those, if you add that column, does it correspond anywhere?
Yeah, it adds up to the 7.1 decrease.
At the bottom.
Oh, I see. Sorry.
Right
So,
at the bottom. Yep.
so can we get a bolder line or something so that the homestead tax rate, like you see that's
You
what,
got it. Yep.
okay. Thank you. That makes sense now.
Oh, that was a good catch.
Thanks.
Okay, anything on the next two that we just did, the homestead tax rate and the projected actual tax rate? Any questions or comments about those two slides?
The bottom number, the 6 and 12.4% for Rupert, is it safe to say that's really the effect of the difference in the populations? I wasn't quite understanding this.
No, so really it's completely so we're both starting with the same tax rate, right? That 1.404 at the top. And so
Right.
the sole difference is the common level of appraisal in the towns.
The
So
appraisal.
Rupert's common
Okay.
level of appraisal is 103.67 now. Last year, it was much higher, which is why you have or lower, I should say, which is why you have a greater variance. So you're looking at two things in this chart. You're looking at Paulett and Rupert side by side because they have different common level of appraisal. And then when you go down, you're looking at the comparison within each town to what it was last year. In the annual report, we have a little bit more information on prior year CLA. But since you have that question, Michael, it might be a good idea to write in this chart to show what the prior year CLA was so people can see why there's such a big difference from last year.
Because it wasn't I couldn't figure that one out. So
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So we can tweak that a little bit or maybe that's the next slide, Randy. So there's not too much in one place. Maybe the next slide is sort of answering the question as to why is there a 6-cent decrease in Paulett and a 12-cent decrease in Rupert, and it has to do with the difference in the common level of appraisal from year to year.
Can we maybe build that slide into, and I don't know if it's two slides or just one bigger table, but like this year's versus last year's of those numbers?
Yeah, what we could do is we could do side by side on Paulett and Rupert instead of doing it down. We can do it across. So yeah, I'll work on that. I'm just going to put a note on this to beef up this chart.
Originally with that differential, Paulett actually had a tax increase, and that's changed, right?
It's changed because
with the yield.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is good. I mean, because that was a tougher pill to swallow when Rupert's tax was going down and Paulett's was going up. Now they're just going down by different degrees, but they're both going down. So I think that's good news.
Right. And that's why we decided to go and once House Ways and Means approved the new yield and sent it through, now it's got to work through the legislature, which it does every single year. But we felt like it was prudent to update the numbers because we knew that there was such a big change that it was going to have a significant impact on the tax rate. So we went back and redid everything. Okay, and then the next slide is on income sensitivity. We, you may have fewer taxpayers that are concerned because you are seeing a drop, but we do think it's important to make people aware of the factor of income sensitivity with many of our taxpayers, that these tax rates will will be lower for them based on the formula that the state has to protect people's financial situation. Okay. And then we wanted to close out, we've got some pictures and comments about the school. We want to, end just like when you can see those pictures and hear the dialogue of things happening at Mettawee. We wanted to end on a positive note about some of the things happening at the school. So we haven't talked about this. We haven't talked about the format yet. So we'll be coming up with that over the next couple of weeks, obviously prior to the meeting. But Brooke, I might have you jump in and close us out with the school piece. Add just like what you just did earlier with Jana. I think it's really helpful to be reminded about the why, and the why is the learning and the kids and the joy and the curiosity and all of the things that you captured. So you're going to be far more effective at that than I will. So we'll end up in that way, and then open it up for discussion and comments from people in your community, and hopefully we have a good number of people to attend your meeting.
I wonder on the income sensitivity, do you think that should be expanded on any, and just talking about what those caps are?
We have a lot of that information in the FAQs in your report. So we've got a lot of details in there. It's hard to know how much detail you want to go into in a presentation like that. Mm-hmm. You can talk about it if you'd like us to spend more time on talking about this. We can definitely do that. We can add talking points in here. There's certainly room on the slide. Just not sure how much detail you'd like to go in during the presentation.
I guess I think on that one, we should either take it out or expand on it, because it doesn't make a lot of sense. I don't think people are going to understand what that means.
Is there some simple statements like below a certain income that you're going to get some kind of credit?
Yeah, no, we would not go into that. So even in the annual report, we don't go into that, because if you qualify, you have to file certain forms to qualify, and there are certain income levels to qualify, but it's not up to us to determine if somebody qualifies. That's a state issue.
There isn't like a fixed income cap or there's other variables?
So this is the income cap, 2.39% of your household income. There are other variables, because when you get to a certain point, it's sort of graduated of how much of a credit you might get. And your household income is your household, and there are certain requirements about what type of income. It's a tax form, right? So what type of income gets included in that. So we don't want to be in a position of where we're advising people on what their household income would be, or how much they could make, and what their taxes might look like. What we can share is this information, that the cap is specifically related to your ed spending per pupil number. It is tied to that. That is in statute. So that's the piece that we can share. How do we come up with what that 2.39% is, and what might it mean for a taxpayer? And it might mean that if you file the appropriate forms, and if you're income sensitized, meaning your household income is of a certain amount, then you may, if you're eligible per the state of Vermont, receive a credit. And that credit is going to be based on this cap number. So that's the part that we can share. And in the annual report, we direct people to the state website. We show them how this number is calculated. I don't think in a presentation you want to get into the nitty gritty of a mathematical calculation, because
no, I agree.
It's a lot. But I think it's important to point out the fact that many taxpayers are income sensitized, and so they won't pay the tax rate that we're seeing on the appraised value of their house necessarily.
Well, that might be a good statement to say that, a large portion of the population would be income sensitive, or some way of making, and just to make sure that they, I don't know, direct them to the website or whatever, but just so people realize that probably more people than not are eligible for a reduction on that.
Yeah, I used to have a great place to go for this number. I had a good contact up at property, and that was a few years back when we were doing the merger, and we really pushed to this point because I think we were looking at between 60 and 70% of Paul and
Yeah.
Rupert homeowners
Yeah.
that actually take advantage of this credit. And even if it's a small amount, you're no matter how much of a credit you're getting, you're still taking advantage of it, which means you're taking advantage of that cap on your household income.
In some
And
cases, it can be very substantial, though.
it can be very substantial in many cases. So, so I think that it's important to point out. It would be great, I think, if we added, if I can find that percentage and get a hold of those numbers at some point this week, we can update the chart with that.
Just saying last year, X percent of.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. The data's out there. I just have to find it. Yep. So we'll add that.
Okay, any other comments? Anything else you think we should include that we didn't?
No.
I like it. I think it's really nice, very concise.
It's broken down really well.
Yeah, it's just a good talking points. It directs people. Yeah, I like it.
Okay, good. Good. So we'll come up with a flow and I'll share that with you before the meeting, or Julie will, one of the two of us, so that you know what to expect during the meeting. But I envision the meeting starts, the moderator is facilitating the meeting. We present the presentation. We'll figure out who's speaking to what points. It will likely be a combination of Julie and Sue, myself. We'll have Brooke close out the end. And we may pause after kind of at natural pause points for any questions midstream. We may kind of wait till the end, but I'd like it to be as interactive as it can be, because the point of this is to, share information with your taxpayers and community members and make sure that they have a good understanding of what they're voting on before the day of the vote. So, but we'll share all of that with you so you know what to expect.
Is there a moderator? I mean, this is sort of, a Zoom meeting of this extent I'm becoming familiar with, but if there are 50 or 75 or 100 people, how is such a thing formatted? How does?
Yeah, your moderator, your district moderator will be the moderator for this informational hearing, as they are when like last year when we were at where were we last year? The firehouse, right? The Rupert Firehouse. So that's what we're going to have to talk through, is how do people ask questions? What are the details, so that we can present that to people ahead of time? We will, possibly use the chat feature so people can type their names in, and then we can, at those pause points, we can call on them. We'll create an organized structure so that we can essentially have people participate, engage, ask questions, make comments, but it's not like haphazard and out of control and people are talking over each other. So we'll have all of that squared away within the next 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Okay.
Unless you want it to be just chaos, because we can just not do any of that. And we can see how the Paula and Rupert community members take to that.
The chaos model doesn't seem to work particularly well,
But if it was a question we didn't know the answer to, we could say, sorry, I can't hear you. And they'd never.
Really breaking up.
Next. Okay.
I like that, Scott.
There's a simple technique one of my children has used that's easy for anyone, and you can be like that. It's easier to conceal what. Thank you.
That was almost perfection, Michael. It sounds like you practiced that a little bit.
He's an actor, right? He can do it.
Anybody can do that.
I don't know.
Okay. All right. Well, if you have any other thoughts, let us know in the near future, because we're going to be finalizing all these over the next week and a half. Okay. So you have the work plan, that's just distribution, and you have my monthly superintendent report as well. I do have one piece I want to add to my report because this really has come to a pretty big head in the last couple of weeks, and I want to make sure all board members have an understanding. We are really, really struggling with subs right now across our system. I can't even probably communicate clearly enough just how dire that situation is in our schools. So there just aren't enough substitutes, and we have a lot of people out for a lot of different reasons. And we had this new and very important variable about not wanting to expose any more people to any more people than we have to. So all of it is more complicated, and I want to be very frank with people that we may find ourselves in a situation in which we can't fully staff a school, and we may need to have a class move remote for a day or a period of time if we find ourselves short enough that we can't make that work. I have been blown away at the creativity of our building leaders and the willingness for our teachers to really step up and help out and understand. They really understand the circumstances we find ourselves and know people are doing the best they can. But as board members, I want to make sure you understand that it's pretty bad. You kind of add that on top of the stress and strain that educators are under right now. I'm sure many of you are aware of. I talked about some of them in my report, but there's a lot. There's them teachers not being prioritized for the vaccine, and retirement benefits. The state treasurer is making proposals to adjust the teacher retirement system, and just there are times when you can step back objectively and really understand all those decisions, but our educators are certainly taking a hit, and it's affecting them in a lot of ways. It's tough. It's very, very difficult. So I wanted to be able to share that with you and make sure you understood those in addition to the other things I wrote. And I'm happy to answer any questions or engage in any conversation around that or what I put in my superintendent report this month.
I just wanted to jump in and say something similarly. It's been really hard finding sub bus drivers. So I highlighted that in my report, but I'm sure some of you have heard we've had to be very creative of the bus routes the last few weeks. And I'm grateful to have all the bus drivers back today. But very much similarly, the bus drivers have really been collaborating. Parents have been very helpful, and we've been trying to be flexible with drop-off times in the morning, but it's been very challenging because there isn't very many sub bus drivers as well.
So Randy had discussed with me that when she brought this up at a recent T&G meeting, they were interested in beginning to draft a letter advocating for teachers being moved up or at least put somewhere in the line specifically for vaccinations. You probably know, but Vermont basically did like healthcare workers and first responders, and then everything else is kind of by age. So I don't know if VSBA has worked on this at all. I know, I think that we should as a board draft a letter
I agree.
to our government.
Definitely.
Maybe we should
And let it be known to the teachers, because I think that anything we can do to support them with just giving them all a letter, saying, hey, we know that this is really hard, because as a teacher, former teacher, I feel for them a lot. And I think that for state employees in general and for the vaccines, it's just another message coming to them saying, you're not that essential. And that's a mistake on other people's parts. So I think we can do something to make an effort to say, yeah, we can write this letter, but let's write them all a letter and say, thank you for what you are doing some way. So anyway, just a thought.
That's actually a good idea. Can we include also like a thank you slide in
Yeah.
our presentation?
Mhm.
And I can work on drafting a letter to the staff.
Thank you.
Yeah, I
Um,
was really surprised, with how much emphasis and importance, the governor has put on keeping schools open, and
Yeah.
in class teaching and stuff, and then to not have. I mean, other states, my cousin's a teacher on Long Island, and she was vaccinated. I mean, and they vaccinated the ski patrol. It's just like, I don't know. So yeah, I think that's great. We should do a letter.
I think it's terrific. And to Diane's point, my sense, and I think it's pretty accurate, is that teachers right now feel as if nobody's looking out for them,
Exactly.
and so it will go a long way. And I know representatives have sent letters to the governor. I just got T&G's letter out this afternoon. And knowing that the board stands behind our teachers will mean more to them than you can even begin to understand. It's rough. I've never seen morale where it is, and they're spent, and they're feeling very underappreciated. And so I am pleased to hear that you as a board are interested in, sending a letter to the state as well as sending one to your teachers directly. I think it will go a long way, and it's what they need right now.
And if we can do anything else for them, if anybody can think of anything, I mean, I just think that their morale must be terrible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really not feeling cared for.
Yeah.
And respected and appreciated.
I mean, we're putting them,
Yep. Well, to that point, I'll think about that. I've been thinking about those lines as well, Diane. And I'm not.
I don't know if it's just a single rose or a carnation or a piece of candy or something that just says thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk about it. Let's not spill the beans online in the meeting.
Oh, sorry. Well.
Let's think about what those options are. And I'm completely with you, Diane. Completely with you. So.
Okay, so do we need a vote to authorize me to draft some letters and send them rather than waiting for our next meeting? Or do you want to draft letters and have them be in the next meeting?
Let's do it.
Yeah, I would encourage you to make a motion.
I'll make a motion that we give Julie the go ahead to draft letters and get them to who we need to have them go to. Run it by one person to make sure your grammar or whatever, but yeah, do it to it, Julie.
Okay.
I'll make a motion.
The letter is to advocate for vaccines for education staff.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Everybody in education.
Are there two letters, and then is there one from the board to the staff?
So I think one letter will go to, I guess let's be clear about it. One letter would go Governor Scott, Dr. Levine, and Secretary French.
Mm-hmm.
And then a second letter would go to the staff and teachers at Mettawee School.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I would CC all of the representatives from Paula and Rupert. They may as well be batting
for us.
Yeah. So how is that stated in a motion? So we can move that down.
So I'll just clean up the motion. Are you being silly, Scott?
Well, no, you made a motion. I was seconding it, but
okay.
But it was an ambiguous motion where you got to get the.
I believe the motion is to authorize me to draft a letter to
Governor
Scott, Dr. Levine, Secretary of Education Dan French, and all relevant representatives of Paula and Rupert advocating for vaccinations for our for education staff.
Yep.
And a second letter to be sent to our staff at Mettawee, to
Yes.
let them know that we are batting for them and thinking of them.
And
Yes.
I'd like to add something. And maybe I hope this wouldn't complicate things, but I think educational staff, as well as, I don't know what their janitorial staff or the people who are taking care of and cleaning those buildings, who I assume are there during the day when the student population is there as well.
What about the bus drivers?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Typically-
Seems like those are critical people to keep it all running.
Mhm. You're in an interesting situation because the bus drivers aren't employed by the district or the SU.
Right.
You can kind of encompass that, but that particular population, in your case, is not employed by us. But I think we can phrase it so that we get the point across that, everyone who's serving students in school in some capacity should be vaccinated,
Mhm.
right? So we can probably tweak the language to be pretty inclusive.
Right.
Okay, so Diane made the motion that Julie just encapsulated into a larger motion, and Scott, were you seconding that?
He was.
I wasn't trying to be silly, but
I just wanted to make sure that I took accurate notes, so.
Don't even have to try,
oh,
Scott.
thanks. Jeez, I hear that enough.
He was
people.
coming in and out, so I thought he was pulling a mic.
So,
And then all relevant reps. Okay, sorry, I'm done taking my notes and now I'll go ahead and take a vote. Corey,
Yes.
Michael,
yes.
Diane,
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
Okay. Motion passes. Excellent.
Thank you for that. I really want to thank you as a board for taking that stance and feeling that way. It's 1,000 times easier for Brooke and me to have a board that is so fully supportive of our teachers and staff. And I'm very grateful for it. So thank you.
I wanted to also state the same thing. I did say it in my principal comments, but I just want to thank all of you for your hard work and your dedication in supporting our school and community. You've been very thoughtful in so many decisions that you've made. And I just want to thank you for your commitment to just ensuring that our staff and students are successful. So I thank you for all that you've done for all of us.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Brooke.
I just wanted to suggest, without wanting to drag the letter thing out, that I would appreciate, Julie, if when you get a draft put together, we could all get a copy of it, just in case people want to kick in or tweak something or add something, or right? No? What other people think about that? And that's not through any lack of, trust in what you would do. It's just a matter of knowing that we're putting out what is all mutually sort of.
I'm fine with that as long as the responses are within a day.
Yeah, we don't want to
I
make
think
it
we
more
can't-
complicated than it needs.
Yeah, I don't want it to go on. I just want it to be done because, so let's give ourselves, I don't even know. I personally don't need it. I'm going to say, run it by someone who's going to check it. Randy, but if you
That's
want to
fine.
do that, then make sure it gets done. Fast turnaround.
I know
Michael, that's it.
everybody's got complicated lives. I'm not looking to make any more work. All I'm suggesting is it's good to have another set of eyes look at something before it goes out. It doesn't have to be.
And I absolutely said that at the beginning. It should be looked over by someone else or two someones, but it doesn't need to be me. So whatever you decide.
I can send it on. Don't hit reply all. That's all.
Mhm.
Okay.
We'll just be really clear about feedback, whenever you send it, feedback by this time. And
Right.
that's it, only to you.
Right.
And the feedback should only be back to Julie, not anyone else, right?
Yep.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, you ready to move on?
I think so, unless anyone else has questions for Randy or Brooke.
No.
Okay, excellent. So next we have our community engagement. This is basically just like, we worked on this and we're done with putting it together. It's in the report.
And we can get it out to all, we'll get the electronic survey out to all staff and all families that we've got some experience with at this point. And I guess the question I have for you is, do you want to take the electronic survey and still get that out to other stakeholder groups in Paulette and Rupert?
Yeah, and I have a question about this too, because like T&Gs came out, and they said they wanted kids in their school system to answer it, but I don't think it went out as an email to all kids in the school system. So can we do that? Can we make sure that happens?
It's not, they decided not to go to all students. So the middle school students are getting it this week.
So okay. Because I don't think it should be answered by kindergartners. I don't know that they have it, but I feel like our 5th and 6th graders are starting to get an idea of what they need to, certainly our 6th graders.
Yeah, so they opted to say fifth and up would be given the survey. And then also we made it optional. So if teachers in grades K to 4 wanted to do an activity with the questions with their kids, like a whole group, and the teachers wanted to kind of collect that information and share it, they could do that as well. So they, we didn't think handing them a survey and asking them to complete it made any sense, but we thought younger kids might have some ideas. So that's how they're tackling it.
I like that idea.
It's optional. Nobody's being forced to do it, but if you want, it would be great to get a different perspective.
So I just say 5th and 6th grade.
I don't mind to push that out if you want me to.
I agree. Just 5th and 6th grade can get like an email and answer it on their own. If teachers of younger grades want to set up some sort of activity, but I think again, that should be optional for the teachers. Like if they want to do it, they have enough going on.
Yeah, they do. Sorry.
Idea though, to have the kids, participate where able.
So what was your question, Randy? I'm sorry, if we want to take the electronic version.
Yeah, to other stakeholder groups in your communities. I don't know what those Paulette and Rupert kind of groups are, but you want to try to reach out to you want to cast the widest net you can for your community. So, are there farmer groups? Are there, I don't really know your community well enough to know where those pockets of people are that congregate. Book clubs.
You're talking about an electronic version, so we would be putting it like on a local Facebook page or a.
Correct. Yep. And I would encourage you to do that.
Can I say that we could, in our community through the library, we have a connectors meeting where a lot of different groups get together. They're used to going to the library or to the library web page, and we could put it there if you wanted to, or I could ask Sarah, our connector, if she could get it, different copies, a copy to these other groups, because she has all of their email information. And it just depends.
Exactly what you want to do.
Okay.
If there's more thoughts like that you can generate, and then if people can take ownership of some of those, it will help to reach more people in your community.
Another idea is, I think Elizabeth Gibson has her Paulette once a month email group, and there might be something similar in Rupert. So
that's part of the connector thing. And I don't know if Elizabeth is doing it every month anymore, Brooke.
Elizabeth's not doing it at all anymore.
Yeah,
but
she was going to stop.
Person.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there is a new person that's going to be doing it. And I think it's like updates at, I can't remember the email address, but I can look it up while you guys talk.
Yeah. Okay, you're gonna.
Should we have
Because
Deb
we
put
could
it
talk
out?
about it, Julie, and see who we could reach out to.
Yeah, I think I could get it to, I mean, Sarah, if we got it to Sarah, she'd probably get it to Sean, the person that's doing the Pollock
Yep.
website,
Yep.
but I could get it to him just as
And
easily.
we'll be having a connectors meeting, 1, 2, 3, before our next meeting, you know, our big meeting. So if I got on this and told Sarah about it and sent the survey to her, or you sent the survey to her and said, could you put it on the library website, and could you help us get it out through the connectors meeting? That, I think that would be something.
Mhm.
Michael, do you have any Rupert ideas?
Well, there's the Rupert Village Trust, which is the group that has just begun, you know, to renovate the general store a few doors down from where I live. That, you know, there's the library here and the library group. You know, there's also the select board,
Right.
On your fire department.
the fire department. Yeah.
Yeah, do you think for the trust, Michael, like if you got a copy to Jane Davies,
was
she's
just
got a pretty
thinking
big email list, right?
Yes, I think that they would certainly happily include that along with, I know everything, you know, in those ways has gotten significantly, you know, curtailed as of late, like, but certainly the Rupert Village Trust, I think, would be a good one. And I was also wondering about that Front Porch Forum, which I'm
Yeah,
not
I
all
wondered
that
about that.
acquainted with, but I know a lot of people use it. I personally, you know, am not real fluent with these things, but I know that one is really popular. Does anybody else have, you know, have access or use that thing? The
Well-
Front Porch Forum?
Sarah, again, I think can do that for the survey, if that's something I can check with her.
I will email Jane Davies about that. I'm in regular touch with her. So I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, this is all terrific. This is exactly the thinking you want to have.
I can put it out in our weekly messenger and include it on our Facebook page for Mettawee.
Yep.
And our website as well.
Good, got it.
Okay, I will reach out to Sean, who is managing the Pollitt website and monthly newsletter. I will reach out to Deb Hawkins, who's the town clerk, who has a town clerk Facebook page. And I will reach out to the fire department. I don't know if West Pollitt has like a fire department Facebook page. I'll find out, but Pollitt does. And I can have them share the survey out.
Yeah, I don't think the Rupert Fire Department has any kind of active website. I know the town clerk does, but I don't think our fire department does, that I'm aware of.
Okay. Okay. So Randy, can you send us like that link? Just
I will.
with
So-
nothing but the link?
Yep, I'll send you all the link to the survey. And you can
Okay.
share that with everybody and anybody you want, okay?
Thank you.
Perfect.
Good. It's exciting.
It is exciting. And we decided we're going to wait and see what kind of level of response we get before we delegate out how we're going to count and track our data.
Information. Yep.
Yeah, no, it was great to see this thing. It's to see it made real there. So bravo to that.
Oh,
That's
and
good.
Bob is putting together a little press release to talk about our town report coming out, and he's mentioning that there's going to be a survey in it. So
Okay, look for it.
that will get out there too.
So maybe
we're-
he should, I'm sorry, go ahead, Scott.
Where we're putting these out on, like, you know, the Village Trust and Rupert and Pollitt's Facebook page, what will we do? Do we have would people then print it out, fill it out and mail it in? I'm just wondering what the mode is of, or so the form is loaded on there, but then what?
So it's in electronic form. So if they have the link, they just complete it and all the results come here.
Okay.
They come to me.
Great.
So
That's what I was hoping you'd say.
the hard copies that are in the annual report, if they choose to do that, they're going to rip that one out and send it to the office. So we will have hard copies. Hopefully we get more electronic copies.
Yeah, okay.
But the electronic ones are much, much easier to, and it will actually aggregate your information for you
Oh,
as
wow.
well.
Okay.
So, okay. Nice work.
Thanks, Randy. Is everyone all set on the public engagement survey?
Mhm.
Okay. Any board updates? Okay, well, I will take this opportunity to thank Diane for serving. This is our last official board meeting since you're not running again, unless you wanna.
I might do a
Write-in.
write-in for, I
Write-in?
don't know, I'll have to think about it now. I'm disappointed. I thought somebody for sure would be interested and ready to go, and
I noticed that in the sort of list there. So how does that work? I was just curious. Does somebody sort of try to volunteer someone? I mean, what's the sort of protocol?
Yeah, so the first wave would be write-in candidates. You can do a write-in candidate, what is it, plea, I guess. Try to see if you can get somebody who's interested to write in. And then if you don't have that, then you as a board, you need to make an effort. You need to be appointing somebody within a month after the election. So either way, there's some work to try to get those seats filled.
And if we appoint someone, they have to write a letter of interest to us, right? So,
You do.
Right.
Yeah.
so they need to be sort of actively seeking it.
Or interested. Maybe not. They might not be actively interested at the beginning, but maybe after you spend some time with them.
They may
But you can't
grudgingly
submit a
come
letter.
along.
Yeah, we can't.
Right. You
Just-
can't appoint somebody who
No.
does not want to do it.
You can try to though.
And try, but at the end of the day,
Yeah, they have to be
Been
willing to
asking
go and
around.
take the oath and all that.
Right.
Has anyone been asking around at all?
I've asked several people who have not been interested.
I've asked a couple people who have not been interested.
I asked a couple too, just so you know, but yeah.
Oh.
So I'm
I only
disappointed.
knew how much fun we have.
I know. I
And
did
when
use
we go
that.
back live, you have Julie's lemon bars. I mean,
I know.
Right?
They're harder to get a hold of now that we're not
I
functioning.
know, right?
We only function in the virtual world together.
well, did anybody try that?
I did mention that they would get to that somebody I was trying to get to run. I'm like, you could see me more. It's still not
Cool.
interested. Somehow, I don't get it.
I think maybe promising some sort of steady bakery flow might
So
be.
dessert of the month for any candidates.
Oh. Well, I'll keep trying. and
Yeah,
we'll-
me too.
but-
Well, thank you, Diane. You will be missed.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Nice
Diane, for all your
meeting you,
support.
Okay. Our next meeting, which Diane will be there for still, will be our information hearing. And that's February 24th, which is it a Wednesday? We went through this.
Yeah, it is.
Mhm.
It's a Wednesday.
Okay, and it's at 7. Okay, and then after that will be March 8th at 6:30. That'll be our organizational meeting.
Wow.
Okay. And then we'll have some time for some board self-evaluation. Level of engagement.
High. I think very high.
Mhm.
I agree.
Maybe even an all-time high.
I like that. I'm writing that down, Scott. Well, you know, we really did, like, looking at the survey, like you said, Michael, actually seeing it put together was really nice.
Mhm.
The fruits of our labor. It's good to see.
It is. It is.
Agenda followed.
Yes, it was.
Yes.
Sufficient time on community engagement.
Yes.
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 Ends discussions.
No.
We're getting there. And executive limitations.
I would say no.
Consent agenda used appropriately.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyone want to talk about what went well?
Yeah, I think being able to see the, concrete evidence of what has been, discussion was a very encouraging development. And I also, frankly, really like the fact that we are going to have those letters written. That seems like a critical bit of active sort of engagement that needs to happen. And we, have jumped right in. So good deal. There's no time to waste.
Thanks.
Julie, you did skip was the agenda linked to the annual work plan, and the work plan was in it this time.
Oh, I did skip that.
So we have to go back and give ourselves a yes on that one.
Yes, okay. We did it.
Yay.
Mm.
Any concerns about the meeting?
That we're going to have to keep meeting like this for months and months
while.
into the future.
Yeah.
It's like really getting me nuts lately, but okay, that's it. Beats getting COVID.
Well, hopefully, I mean, okay, so I'm thinking worst case scenario, like maybe we could do some outdoor meetings when it gets warm, even if we're not.
Oh, that's a good idea.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
I think I don't know about you guys, but I just feel like we've done enough of these now where it's no longer strange. Like, I think I just feel like it's very interactive and it's no longer as distracting as it was at first. And
I
the other
agree.
thing, Julie, when you were just talking, you looked up at me and it reminded me of the Brady Bunch. I had mine set up. It looked like you were looking up. But we should practice.
Oh, we should do one. We should propose.
Yeah.
That's very funny.
That would be so fun.
Okay, we need to have a quick meeting before our informational meeting so that we can all practice like when to look up and when to look
Yeah.
at.
We need a theme song.
That's great.
That could be your job, Corey. It can start like, here's a story of the Mettawee School Board.
There we
Okay,
go.
Randy, that's now your turn.
Nope, that's as far as I go.
Good. That was good, Randy.
Thanks. You're next, Michael.
And then it could jump into, for you.
Uh-huh.
Oh, man.
The Mettawee theme song.
Oh, man, we should do that. That'd
I
be
know.
the way to end our presentation is if we all could just memorize this Mettawee song.
The
And
Mettawee Communities, the MCS song.
We need to have Ron
I could
Hawkins
just in
as
the
a
last
guest.
line and play it without us singing it. I could just put it right in there as part of our ending.
We can actually close with me singing, and that will get everybody to leave us alone. That's my plan. If things go south, I'm just gonna start to sing.
Good deal.
Any improvements besides, in person and lemon bars?
The words right out of my mouth.
Okay. Is there any public comment?
I have public comment.
Okay.
I forgot to celebrate you last month at our meeting. I had all my notes here and I just got so enthralled in the meeting that we finished and then we hung up and I thought, oh, I totally forgot to thank you. So January is School Board Recognition Month in Vermont, and I want to take a moment now in February because, well, that's how we're rolling these days, to thank you, because better to say it a few weeks late than not to say it at all. You are an excellent board, and you have been a huge support to me and to our teachers, and your commitment and the things you focus on and your thoughtfulness, you make a huge difference in our educational community and the lives of our students and families and our employees. And with every part of me, I just want you to hear me say thank you for all you do. You really do make a difference. And Julie, I'm looking at Diane saying Julie. Diane, thank you for all you've done. And maybe you'll rethink things. I'd love to have you stay, but your insight and your perspective have been tremendous on the board. So thanks to all of you for all you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Randy. So
Right back at you, Randy.
Yes, for sure.
Really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm assuming since Celeste's not chiming in that there's no other.
Correct. There is none.
Okay. So is it the general consensus that we should adjourn?
Yes.
Perfect. Then I will close this meeting at 7:52.
Right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
Excellent
everybody.
job.